get into it. This is a podcast where Opie from the Opie and Anthony show slowly melts into obscurity while losing his mind. It's really something spectacular to listen to in small doses. Very small, like micro doses.
Well, it's wild. Like I just got to say before we even get into it, like I do have massive amounts of respect for Opie, for Greg Opie Hughes. Grew up listening to him and Anthony.
Me too.
Every day.
Yep.
And listen to him and Jimmy. I'm a fan. I just like you remember how he always used to talk about Opie always talked about he would wave at Howard Stern and just to kind of like throw like, hey, Howard. And then, like, they wouldn't even let Opie in that part of the building anymore.
Correct.
You remember that?
Yep.
So my making fun of Opie, my Brother Man videos, they're my wave at Opie. They're my hey, Howard, only it's Opie. And just the way that Howard has no idea who Opie is, Opie has no idea who I am. So I always just want to say that I don't, like, think I'm better than Opie. I don't think that I'm like, I don't think that he's not successful. But in the words of the great Luis Gomez, who I love dearly, I met Anthony first. I made friends with Anthony first, and Anthony, I'm on Team Anthony.
All right, Will, I hope that now that disclaimer's out of the way, you're ready to dig in a little bit.
I'm ready to dig in, but
right.
I got so many people telling me like, yeah, go fuck that guy. He's a piece of garbage. I'm like, all right, let's not like take it too far. All right, the guys is he's the Opie and Anthony show was dope. It was Dopey and Anthony. So I just want to say that before.
But the reason why Will was on my radar is because he did a great parody video of Opie in the streets twirling around with his phone, talking to Joe Rogan. Yeah, you've done several of them.
And honestly, it makes Anthony laugh so hard that's why I started doing it, because it was like the hardest I had made Anthony laugh was like making fun of that. That was where I thought it was so fucking funny of him to be like, come on, Joe. Like, bro, we've been friends a long time. Like, what the fuck? Like, come on. Why won't you you're the busiest guy in show business right now, and your podcast is crushing it. Like, why won't you just come on my, like, podcast that I record walking down the street?
Right, and the best part was, he goes, I even told you I thought your podcast was great. It's like, okay, Joe hears that all the time. You think you're going to kiss his ass a little bit to get him to go on your show? The best part about that, the reason why he was so butthurt, is because when Joe Rogan was in New York for that weekend, the first thing he did was go on Anthony's show. And he didn't even respond to Opie.
No, that's what it was. That's what it's really about. He wants to be like, hey, we both did something for you. Why you only like Ant? You know what I mean? And that's sort of like, I talk about this with my producer, Paul. We probably talk about Opie as much as you guys do. Like, we're just like, everyone's fascinated with Opie, and like who he is and what he's doing. But I always thought the thing that I liked about him, and like the thing that I understand about Opie and why I can do an Opie impression so well, is because I get it. I'm part Opie deep down, but I think a lot of us are part Opie deep down, but we skip by those jokes. Like, you get your Opie jokes first and you're like, all right, I'm not going to make that joke. It's like a little too obvious. It's a little too silly. It's a little too much of a dad joke. And then you get into the good stuff. And the beauty of Opie is that he just goes with that stuff like right away.
The beauty of Opie. I like how you spun that at the end. And what's great about him is he doesn't give a shit if he sounds stupid and it's the most obvious joke.
He's not going for the funny. He's
going for an example of just what you're talking about.
Let's go.
Because for some reason, his show is in the comedy category on Apple Podcasts. There's no jokes. There's nothing funny going on. He's talking about his brother-in-law's COVID, and he's talking about politics for some reason and everything else. But he does at one point turn it into a comedy show when he says this. And I think this illustrates the point that you just made perfectly.
Sweet Lucy was a dancer. Is that the only song that has the word cunnilingus in it, by the way? Deep Purple? Sweet Lucy was a dancer. I dare you to figure out another song that has the word cunnilingus in it. Oh my God, I can barely say it. But I could still do it.
Good one, Opie. Good one.
Hey, all right, that's what I'm saying.
I wanted that to sit there for a second.
Opie's like every one of us after like 6 beers, you're hanging out with like your dad and your uncle, and like you're like that level of humor that you're trying to do. You know, you're like, cunning linguist. Oh boy. You know, it's just
hilarious.
I don't know.
All right, so Opie's show format is he's on Facebook Live. He pops onto Facebook Live, and he's just interacting with the 100 or so people who are in there with him, who are messaging him in real time. And what's so funny about this, and Chris and I were rolling, like this is his show format. He's the one who came up with it. And then he gets pissed, even though it's a ask me questions and I'll answer them show. He gets pissed if you don't ask the right questions.
Shane, oh my God, I got to answer the same questions every single day. And it drives some of you nuts. I still have a place in New York City. We abandoned the place.
So somebody asked him, do you still have your apartment in New York? Because he's been living out in the Hamptons for the last 6 months, 7 months. And he's like, oh my God, I got to answer this question again. It's like, but you don't have a set schedule. You just pop on live whenever you want to. People aren't following your podcast. You've seen the numbers. People aren't listening to every single answer you've ever given and know every question you've ever gotten. And honestly, I listen to Opie quite a bit. I've never heard anybody ask him that. And he's like, that's the question that's bothering you? You still got a place in New York?
Even if you were Tom Cruise and everyone's asking you the same 10 questions or whatever, it's such a dickhead celebrity move to be like, oh my God, everyone just asks me the same questions. It's like, you know, like it's people are interested in your life. You know, that's a good thing.
Someone's asking you anything. It's a miracle. There's 100 people hanging out in Facebook Live. These people have nothing going on that they're watching Opie.
One of the things that always bothered me about Opie listening to the show was when he would be like, I hate mentally ill people. I can't be around mentally ill people. And I was like, what the fuck kind of thing is that to say, man? It's like, I get, you might not want to be around your mom. I got that shit. But it's like mentally ill people. It's like you run a radio show with you work with Jim Norton, you work with mentally ill people, man. Like that's the gig. Like
he's
comedy is filled with.
He's the one who's mentally ill.
No, I know.
I've been documenting this for the last 2 years.
But that's like the irony of it all. He's like, my mom was a paranoid woman. She thought everyone was against her. She thought everyone was like not on her side. E-Rock, what are you looking at me like that for? You know what I mean? Like he was always. So he was like reliving all of the stuff he hated about, which is common.
That's just how that happens. Yeah. The vicious cycle of mental illness. So the show format is people just get on there and they chat with him and he responds to people. Now, he doesn't have to. Like, as you know, we have people chatting in the Discord right now. I'm not paying attention to it because we actually have a show format and things to talk about. But Opie just sits there and reads the things, whether he likes the question or not. Now, Will, if I asked you, what is Opie famous for? What would your answer be?
The Opie and Anthony Show.
The Opie and Anthony Show, right. This is why we know who he is. And he gets pissed anytime someone brings up anything about Opie and Anthony, such as this example.
Yeah.
Call Anthony Pablo. Why the obsession with this horse shit? Why do I have to do that just because you love the Opie and Anthony Show? And I really, really respect and appreciate the people that loved the Opie and Anthony Show, but there's nothing in that for me anymore.
But Opie, don't get pissed if someone brings it up. It's the only reason why you're famous. It's because you're on the Opie and Anthony Show. It's not because you were a disc jockey in Boston back in '96 by yourself.
No, I mean, Anthony himself, every time you're with him, someone comes up and just goes like, I love the Opie and Anthony Show. And he's like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That's all you got to say.
Right.
Thanks. We had a great time doing it. That's all.
Not for nothing, but he's concerned that someone on social media is being a troll. Do you know how many people troll me on social media minute by minute? I mean, you're watching the Discord there, Chris. It's probably happening right now. It's like, are you stupid? You don't have to read those questions. If it's bothering you, if it's triggering you so much, just leave it alone.
That's the problem. I mean, one thing about him is if you're going to be that sensitive, like you really shouldn't even put out a podcast or even have a Twitter account because it's kind of like, that's what people do. You know what I mean?
He talks about Twitter a lot and how it's a cesspool and he hates it.
There's people like that. I'm like, why do you let that get to you, man? It's like those people are like Bobby Kelly always said to people on that show. He's like, and other people too. He's like, you just got to take the hit. Like, just take the joke. The joke will be on someone else in a couple minutes.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's on you. That's the fun, you know, but every time, like, you'd hear, sometimes with Opie, you'd hear like this big, everyone's going around the room shitting on each other, and then it gets to Ope, and he's like, no, hey, no, I don't do that, guys. I don't do that. You know what I mean?
It just
and you're
ruins
like,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just kills the bit.
Just kills
and it's
the
like,
whole thing.
And I've heard Bobby always be like, come on, take the hit. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to get into this in a little bit because Opie hates getting trolled on Twitter, but he also talks about how he likes to throw things out about Trump that are controversial, which of course is going to get a conversation started. So you can't have it both ways. You can't be like trolling people and also get pissed at people trolling you. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. A couple more examples of him getting triggered by what people are saying in his chat room.
The country needs O&A. Oh my God, Mike, what are you talking about? That show is dead.
I mean, it's a compliment, right? It'd be great if Opie and Anthony was still on. Like, oh, thanks. I know. It was a great show. Everyone loved it. Great.
I really love doing the impression of Opie, and like all I can hear is like he's doing the impression of himself. Like right now, he's like, "Come on, guys," you know, like that's just classic. That's like his verb of his attitude. He must wake up and go like, the morning coffee, eggs, bacon, toast.
You know he's insufferable to live with. You know that's the case.
I mean, I just imagine he just seemed like that. I mean, that's what you love about shows like Opie and Anthony. You know, you tune in every day, 5 days a week. It's like they're your friends. You're listening to these guys, and Opie became like that dude you work with, who you're like, why has it got to be like that? Why does that dude got to be so weird? Like, that's kind of what it ended up being. I always felt like. I remember when Jimmy said to him on one of the shows, he was like, dude, you say weird shit to people. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it sums it up perfectly.
I was like, you summed it up perfectly, because that's the stuff. It's like, It's like not just weird. It's like you're thinking about it. You're like, what the fuck did that even mean to both of us? You know?
This is interesting because after somebody says we need O&A, he says that most of the podcasts that are out there, especially ones featuring comedians, are stealing their format. Listen to this.
Thank you. Michael Long says it. Stop talking about O&A. That's right. We're doing this now. And if you like it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. There's simply a million. At this point, there's a million podcasts out there. Just people just babbling with each other. Most of them are kind of stealing the whole old O&A format. Ugh.
So again, everyone's ripping him off, but of course they did it amazingly and no one else can do it because they were so talented. Now I'm going to play a clip, and this is where Will, I'm really interested in your opinion on this, because he starts ragging on any podcast where comedians are on it. And this is a little bit of a longer clip, but this is great because he starts doing an impression of what he thinks these podcasts sound like. They're probably out there. I don't know what they are. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe you do. But listen to this. He is so disrespectful to comedians.
I swear, man, if I have to hear another comedian and their stupid podcast just babbling and babbling and babbling. Oh, my God, I never realized that me and you were friends. Oh, my God. Tell me about your experience in the comedy clubs. Do you have a story about a comedy owner or being ripped off? Or you want to talk about a heckler? Something that happened to you while you were doing stand-up? Let's talk about the condo and how you had to live for the weekend with strangers. Shut up! You're not interesting!
The best part about that, at the very end there, he's talking about the condo, living with strangers. He just had Tammy Pescatelli on a month ago, and I played the clip where they were talking about her living in a condo. Like, Opie, this is your show.
Tell me about the condo.
What is he talking about? I don't hear a lot of podcasts where they're talking about the life of a stand-up comedian. Maybe I'm missing that.
All right, now I'm glad I heard that, because now I feel better about this whole operation. You know,
I knew you would.
I was like, but you know, that's kind of funny thing about Opie. Like, before he blocked me on Twitter, he used to kind of, I would try and get his attention by kind of saying stuff like, like, Opie, this is what's really happening here. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, these people are making fun of you. They're not your friends or something like that. Right.
Mhm.
And one time he was like shitting all over comedians. And I was like, Opie, I was like, comedians will say anything to you, like to get, like when you're the host of a popular radio show, I'm like, comedians will say anything to make you laugh, to what they say in the room, they don't really mean. And he's like, exactly. He retweeted me. He wrote, exactly. And then he wrote, and who the fuck are you, to me? I'm like, oh, great. So it's just like a little dig mixed in with the,
Well, he obviously didn't get it. He wasn't understanding. He wasn't picking up what you were putting down. And he had to say, and by the way, I don't even know the fuck you are. Like, thanks, Opie.
Yeah, like always throws in that dig at the end.
Right.
But I actually completely understand what that whole thing, well, not understand, but I think I know what he's saying is like, he hates the comedians. He hates Anthony because it's like, everyone was like, you don't need those guys to do a show, Opie. Like, you don't need those dudes. You're the interesting one. And now it's been like years of him doing a show alone. And it's like, no, you need those comedians. You need like Anthony.
You've summed it up perfectly, because he goes on to explain that comedians are not interesting, and that's why they're podcasts. I just have a couple more clips within this package that I have to get through, because you're going to be blown away by this.
Oh my God. I hung out with so many comedians, and I'm like, oh my God, your whole life is just making fun of everything around you, and you don't have you don't do anything. You don't do anything. You're just scratching your body and counting down the hours until you can get on a stage again. That is it. That's why they're not interesting when it comes to podcasts.
So I do want to point something out, and I realize this is not what he's talking about, but I was just listening to Tim Dillon on Joe Rogan's podcast this morning that just came out, and they're the two most interesting people you'll ever hear talk about any subject, and they're both stand-up comedians.
Oh, and
maybe they're the exception, but what the fuck is he talking about? Stand-ups don't have any hobbies. They don't do anything. Joe Rogan has 1,000 hobbies.
Yeah, I have a lot of hobbies. In fact, one of the main things comedians say is that it's so hard to talk to regular people when you hang out with comedians all the time, because comedians are so interesting. The words they say are usually like not bullshit. It's like if a comedian you've never met will come in and be like, man, I've masturbated 4 times today. My wife is leaving me. I'm broke. You know what I mean? It's like comedians are just full of honesty all the time.
I just want to wrap up this conversation about comedians. Let's figure out why he's so angry at comedians, because it seems weird that he thinks that they can't have a conversation. Well, and they're not interesting.
It's like exactly what you said, though. It's because since podcasting came out, it started with like the comedians. Like, podcasting now is its own art form. There's so much stuff happening. But at the beginning, it was like Mark Maron, Joe Rogan, Greg Fitzsimmons. Like, there were not a lot of podcasts at the beginning that weren't just two comedians like chit-chatting. I mean, it took Rogan like a year to even start having non-comedians on.
Right.
And that was sort of the birth of it, and that was what everyone loves. And the truth is, he's kind of right in a sense. Every comedian on earth has a podcast, especially since COVID. Like, everyone.
Most of them have 3 podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 technically. I have one that like has been stagnant for a year, and I have the one I do on YouTube. You want to? I mean, YouTube. That's even sadder than iTunes when it comes to like people not listening. But it's still. So I could see him saying that, but it must grind his gears that like Bill Burr talking for an hour is like doing the same numbers, if not better numbers, than the O&A show used to do. And Rogan and all these other guys who I think he feels like he broke them. You know, he's like, it wasn't all those hours in the clubs. It wasn't all that traveling and all those specials and all that hard work those guys did. It was the, appearances.
You just set up another package that I have. But before I get into that, this is the final thing that I want to play that shows why he's so resentful of comedians.
You say package a lot, bro. I'm just saying.
All right.
Sorry.
Brilliant observation.
And then if you're in a room with more than one comic, then the whole thing becomes who is the funniest in the room. It's exhausting. And we all know I'm never the funniest in the room.
So that's really what this is about.
Wow, that was like, if I was a therapist, I would have just written down a big note. I'm taking out my therapist pad and I'm underlining things because that is like basically what is happening right there. That's the entire crux of the entire thing is like, I'm not the funniest guy in the room on a comedy radio show. He's like, his whole thing is, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And it's like, clearly it still bothers you all these years later.
It bothers him so much that he's ragging on podcasts. No one even knows I guess he's talking about Bob Kelly and Bill Burr. He's probably talking about the guys who used to do his show all the time who now have podcasts. But it's crazy how pissed off he is about these people's podcasts.
Oh, I'm sure he hates the Legion of Skanks. I think
right.
That's who I was thinking. Like when I was listening to it, I'm like, I bet that's who he's talking about right there. It's like he goes a lot like the Opie and Anthony show. It's like, yeah, man, you did something that inspired people to continue on. Like Joe Rogan constantly says.
Well, hold on a second. This is not true. Because Opie's version of when Opie and Anthony was Opie's show, they were shoving things into women's vaginas. Like, that's what the show was. It wasn't until that became, like, a problem, and radio stations were like, you can't have naked girls in here getting shit shoved into their vaginas and rectums. It wasn't until that happened that all of a sudden Jim Norton started inviting his buddies on, and it turned into comedians sitting around shooting the shit and being hilarious. Opie didn't invent that. That's what comedians do.
Well, it was Anthony even before Jim, right? It was Anthony and then Jimmy.
Yes.
So yeah, but I guess what I meant was you're a part of something that's like, he sees his name is right there, the first one, Opie and Anthony show.
Oh, I'm sure he'll take full credit for it. I just want to correct you and say he shouldn't.
Oh, no,
he deserves zero credit for it. That's all.
But I'm sure he hears, he hears Rogan say stuff like, oh yeah, I was inspired by that. And then you get him at home like, well, if you're so inspired by it, why won't you do my show? You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, because obviously he likes Anthony more. It's like really obvious.
Let's talk
that probably happened backstage. It's probably like behind the scenes shit,
Let's talk about how unfunny Opie is. Even his brother is unfunny. Jimmy K sent me a tweet that Darren Elmo Hughes put out. Listen to this knee slapper. Putin is claiming Russia developed a coronavirus vaccine. Really? That's like buying a box of condoms from the half-off bin at the dollar store.
Oh boy!
Can you explain that one to me? What the fuck's he talking about?
Did that get a retweet from the Opster?
I hope so. I don't know how you'd find it.
Bro. Wait till I show this to my followers, man. They're gonna love it.
The Pod Squad's gonna eat this up.
The Pod Squad.
Do you know about the Pod Squad?
No, is that what he calls it?
It's his Facebook group.
So what's weird,
the Pod Squad.
His podcast sounds like a live stream where like there's no video, but like when you watch a live stream like on like Instagram or something, like a live Instagram live,
that's what he's doing.
See the chat. You can see the chat.
Yep.
So you're like, and even that is really hard to watch. Like if I'm watching like some guy on like the Patriots, like it's like a wide receiver, he's like, yo, what's up, I'm answering questions, it's just all this bullshit, and you can't watch it, so that's hard to watch. So that's Opie's. He'll, even if he gets on a good rant, he'll just stop and be like, yo, why does this guy want to talk about Philly? Why does he want to talk about the Philly crew? I don't have time to talk about that.
Really,
like,
you keep setting me up. You're talking too much because you're setting me up for like 80 clips I got to get to. But what you just said, listen to this. He actually gets upset with someone because he's in the middle of talking about something, and someone puts a note in the chat.
And then there's de Blasio. Give me a minute, will you, please? This is de Blasio.
He's by himself. And he's scolding people. I'm talking about de Blasio. Give me a minute. Like, dude.
See, like that's what I'm saying.
It's fine.
Not only does Opie miss like doing the show and being with the guys, but he also misses being mean to underlings. And that's what I think he's like. He misses that a little bit. So he's like, give me a minute here. Come on, let's go. He misses having like a group of guys he could be mean to.
He says this.
I used to be a big radio star, and now I'm using my body to block the wind so I could talk to you guys for a few minutes on Facebook Live.
I might have punched that one up a little bit.
You meet a lot of guys like that in stand-up, you know what I mean? Like, that's another reason why I think I get such a kick out of Opie's, because he's like, there's so many of these dudes who who they say that. I mean, there's guys who have that written into their act, you know. I used to open for Andrew Dice Clay in Las Vegas in front of thousands of people, but it's great to be here tonight at this VFW hall.
Oh, we used to have a comedy club here in Rochester that was in a strip mall, and every single comedian the first day would be like, you know, you really made it when you're playing a strip mall outside of Rochester. Like,
yeah, it's like it's written into everyone.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, and it's like that's kind of like that vibe, and it's another way to just remind people like I used to do cool shit.
Correct. By the way, the reason why I have 100 people watching me on Facebook Live is I used to be a big radio star. We know.
Yeah, and it's like most of these people are here because they just really just want you to get back and do like 10 episodes with Anthony. That's what really everyone wants, you know, like get those guys back together, do 10 episodes. Who knows what would happen? I imagine it would just be like some sort of like mini series of a mental breakdown or like it'd be like that some kind of monster like with Metallica.
Yeah, right. Just embarrassing. They never should have done it. No, well, honestly, I remember back when Opie would like call in sick or he wasn't on the show and it would just be Anthony and Jim. And those were the best episodes. We just want Ant and Jim to get back together. We don't care what Opie does.
Yeah.
He would just drag it down anyway.
There was some there was some times though, like when Ant left the show or was not really left, but was like kind of forced out. But it was like there was something new to like about the show, which was how awkward it just was between Jimmy and Opie like all the time. And some days Jimmy would just be like, whatever, I like this gig, I'm gonna make the best of it. And then other days you could tell he was just like regretting it through his teeth the entire show that he had to do this.
I honestly didn't make it very long. After Anthony left, I canceled Sirius and was like, okay.
It was pretty weird. It was weird.
So Opie's talking about, and this is a long conversation, I'm not going to play any of it, but he's talking about how he put something out on Twitter about Trump to get people talking, and then he gets all flustered because somebody trolls him. And this is him talking about what the person said to him. And this is that package I was talking about earlier, Will. You're going to love this. You're going to love this package. And if you have a hairy package, don't forget the Lawnmower 3.0. All right, here we go.
And I'll talk about Kamala Harris for a minute, too, here, just so we're fair. But anyway, so kind of made those points on Twitter, and a guy, like, just attacks. Excuse me, and he's a troll. He obviously just, made the account. First thing in the morning, like who the fuck does that? First thing in the morning, time to make a fake troll account to attack me or whoever else out there. There's a lot of these type of people, and he goes, "That's why you don't have friends." I'm like, "Oh my god, that's fucking creepy."
So the guy tells him this is why you don't have friends. And this set off Opie so much that he talked about it for a good 7-8 minutes straight.
Yikes.
On his podcast, which is something that like you should just brush off immediately. Like there's some guy with 0 followers who says this is why you don't have friends. Like that wouldn't stop me in my tracks at all. Like whatever, who cares?
Yeah, like if that gets to you, like it's time to delete Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like it's time to just like
right. Don't even mess around on it. It's not for you.
But just to devil's advocate, he probably needs or really likes reading praise about himself.
Correct.
So you can't not have
you
that.
know how I know he loves that? He retweets every single one of them. Anytime someone says anything remotely complimentary, he will retweet it. No doubt.
I do notice that a lot.
So his comeback to you don't have any friends is this.
You don't even know me.
This is the same comeback every pregnant 13-year-old on Maury uses. This is his comeback. You don't even know me, man. And then he explains why people would have this thought that he doesn't have any friends, and he's spot on.
And it's like, it's well known that there were a bunch of people that I used to work with and public figures. There's definitely a little group. I would call it a little group of people that I'm not friends with anymore.
No, it's not that there's all of those people you used to work with who you're not friends with anymore. It's that they openly hate you. Like they openly come out. When I did my first review of Opie Radio and bashed him, I was getting notes from ex-producers that hadn't worked with him for 20 years who were like, you are spot on. This guy's a fucking asshole. Like this is just a universally thought notion that Opie's a douchebag.
I get a lot of those when I do the Brother Man videos. I get a lot of like secret texts from like some pretty big names too sometimes.
Isn't it hilarious? It's like people like want to remain anonymous. Like, by the way, just so you know, keep doing this. I fucking love it.
Yeah, like I love it. Like Yeah, like we're all in the green room laughing at this right now. You know what I mean?
So this is why people think he has no friends. Because
we're all in the condo. We're all in the condo, just laughing right now.
We're in the condo,
paying our dues.
But this is why people think he has no friends, because they watch these other shows like Bob Kelly's show, like Chip Chipperson, Anthony Cumia. All these guys who used to do the show together are still doing shows together. They're all friends.
Yeah,
they enjoy each other. They do a good job.
And like been through hell too. Like if Rich Voss can still be friends with everybody after everything he's been through, like it's true. It's actually kind of funny. The more I'm thinking about it, well, as we've been talking, I'm like, how did the guy who once thought it was funny to step on a homeless guy's cake, and it was kind of funny.
That was funny.
How did he think that was funny? How did he become this? How did he become so thin-skinned? How did he become so sensitive?
Well, he's always been sensitive.
I know, but I think it was like, I honestly think it was, he thought that I think when Anthony, got fired, he thought like, this is it. Now I'm going to prove to everyone that like, I'm the show, and like it's gonna be better without him.
Yeah, he wanted to do that anyway. He wanted to move away from Anthony because he was getting tired of all the political talk and racial conversations. So Opie was already in that mindset, like, I got to do my own thing. I'm the talent here. What am I doing?
Exactly. And then when it was worse,
it fell apart quick.
And when people were like sending in hate mail, he just dissolved into like.
This is how you know that he's a scumbag. And you were talking earlier about how he thought that he made all those comedians. Like, he thinks that he owns stake in Joe Rogan's success.
Yeah, or like Joe Rogan really owes him. You know what I mean? That's the vibe you get. Yeah. Well, he almost says that all the time.
Well, listen to this. Listen to this clip. This is how you know this guy is a shithead.
And I question if I ever were friends with them, because I really feel like they were friendly towards me because I sat in a powerful seat and I could do a lot of things for them in their careers. And then when I lost that seat and I lost my power, thus then why I'm doing a Facebook Live for about 100 people right now, those people went away.
So he thought he was a kingmaker.
I see that bothers me on a very deep level.
Me too.
Because it's like, no, but it's like also like Opie. How many people did you have on your show? And like, do you think about them? Like, everyone is doing a job there. Like, you go on radio shows to promote yourself and to promote your career, and you usually do it for free. So they get a little bit of like, a comedian on their show, and they get a little entertainment. It's like everyone gets something out of the deal, and for him to say something like that is kind of like, it's like, dude, do you think about all those people that you just used along your they had chicks up there, they were throwing stuff at them and stuff. It's like, if one of those chicks out there going like, I made Opie who he is, and he never talks about how he threw baloney at my ass.
Right. I hate to say it, I have another package about that as well.
Wow.
But I know. You're predicting the future over here. But before I do that, I want to wrap up the I Have No Friends segment of our show. And this is the funniest part of all of this.
And then it's spun by the haters that I have no friends. And I try to explain this on Twitter this morning. I'm like, look, I have plenty of friends. And I have plenty of friends that are still public figures, by the way, but they ignored that part of it. I could give you a whole fucking list.
All right. I'm putting it out there right now. Opie, I want the list of your friends. You said you can put together a list. I want to see this list. I need to know who your friends are.
I could give you a whole fucking list.
Could you imagine being that concerned about a tweet that you're like, you think I don't have any friends? I'll put together a whole list of people who are my friends. Like, oh,
have I had sex? I've had sex. Yeah. I've had sex with so many women. I'll make a list of all the women I've had sex with.
Jesus. He's like, it's in 7th grade still.
No guys, all girls.
All right, so I want to get into the stuff that you were talking about, how he used to how he turned chicks into entertainment on his show back in the day. And that was really his strong suit. That's what he was really good at.
Well, I mean, it's a Stern, like, copycat thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Opie's talking about how he had a daughter, and the daughter freaked him out.
And then I just started staring at every guy. You're all fucking pigs. I know. Not that I was a pig. I was respectful.
Opie says he was not a pig. All guys are pigs. But
oh,
he was
not
respectful.
that I was a pig. Yeah, see? Wow. So, I hate to say it. He's turned into his mom. He always talks about his mom and how she just didn't, she rewrote history in her own mind all the time. I mean, come on, dude. You were literally a shock jock. It was what they called you for years.
Well, thankfully, the people in the chat hold him to task on this because he talks about being a feminist, which I'm not even joking about. And then he does go through some of the things that he used to do.
There was a time on the Opie and Anthony show, I think this was even before satellite radio, we were able to do so much more with women. We did many things with girls and their vaginas.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about what some of those things are. I'd be really interested to hear that.
We built a heat shield, and we put a bottle rocket in her vagina, and we lit it, and it flew down the hallway and exploded. Yes. That's what we did. The golden era of radio.
I can't even tell if he's happy. I can't even tell if he's kidding or being sarcastic.
He's not. I mean, this started with I was concerned about having a daughter because I think guys are pigs and I'm a feminist. And then it turned into him reliving his glory days and he starts getting really excited about these stories. Here's another one.
And then we also proceeded to see if a cell phone would ring inside a vagina.
Yeah.
And that was the days when the cell phones were a bit larger, excuse me. So we had to find a special lady. And I believe we couldn't get the cell phone to ring, but I'm not really sure. I don't remember fully.
All right, Opie. What else did you do with women back in the day?
Then we had a lady that made a lot of money at bachelor parties. She called us up and said she could throw things from her vagina. And I'm like, come on. So she came down with eggs and ping pong balls. And she had this hip motion where she would place stuff in her vagina. And, of course, we made her, get completely naked because it was very important for the radio show. And then she would do this hip move, and these things would go flying out of her vagina. And then we would try to hit them with wiffle ball bats and whatnot. And then we had a catcher mitt, and we would catch them. And so we got that done.
No
Opie
sense of irony.
He says the word vagina like a Catholic nun, just like
vagina.
Vagina. It's really hard to tell. Like I was literally listening. I'm like, is he shitting on himself for his old machismo, or is he just reliving the golden days? I can't even tell what he's doing right now.
He's so proud of himself. Because I'm not joking. While he's telling these stories, there were people in the chat who didn't know these things. And he's like, wow, I'm freaking people out right now. You guys don't know about the golden era of O&A. And it's like, Opie, you can't have it both ways. You can't talk about how woke and how amazing you are now, how you don't care about Opie and Anthony and you're moving on, and then relive the things that you did enjoy about Opie and Anthony, which was exploiting chicks with low self-esteem and daddy issues. Sorry, Vic. I wasn't talking about you.
See, I thought he was when he said for the radio, we did all these visual jokes on radio. I think that was an unintentional joke.
Right. We made her get naked. Well, because we're chauvinists, and that's just what we did, even though there's no reason for it. But this is the best. This is where he talks about becoming a feminist.
I'm like, you know what? You're right. And at that moment, I became a feminist. And I started studying women. And supporting women.
He's not saying that as a joke either. He gets really into how he's a feminist now, and then talks about hitting a ping pong ball that comes out of a woman's vagina with a wiffle ball bat.
I hate it when guys say that too, about, I don't have any kids, but I hate it when guys say yeah, when I had my daughter, I just started thinking about how everyone's going to be trying to fuck this kid of mine. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Why is that your first thought?
Yeah, just get up, worry about that in 17, 15 years. I don't know, worry about it later,
Or you'll walk out and she'll be a lesbian, which is what
you might not even have to worry about it.
Right. She starts bringing home all of her girlfriends when she's 16, 17 years old. All right, maybe I need to cut some of this stuff out.
He's like, one thing I hope is that my daughter grows up to go on radio shows where she sticks cell phones up her cooch and gets a couple texts.
She's actually able to type out whole paragraphs while the phone is in her vagina. She's got this amazing technique.
She can hate tweet me from her vagina. It's amazing.
This is the best. He's talking about cancel culture, and it's so funny that he's worried about what he's going to say on his Facebook live stream.
And then I got to be really careful because of cancel culture.
Opie, good news. You don't have to be careful. You've already been canceled. It's over.
You don't have a job.
You don't have a job. What are people going to cancel you from? What is he talking about? Cancel culture.
Honest to God, it would be hard.
Go ahead.
They would have to cancel Opie. They'd have to be like, they'd have to spend 10 minutes reminding everyone who Opie is before they spent 2 minutes canceling him. It's, and it also is funny when you said that. I was like, is he trying to cancel himself right now? Because it sounds like he's just bringing up every bad thing he ever did on the radio that would be like, considered sexist nowadays.
I don't think he's aware enough.
No. I mean, I was being facetious.
I
know he's not really trying to.
I don't think he even
cancel himself.
Aware.
He's just pontificating into this Zoom H4n that he carries around.
I think this is interesting because he talks about this a lot. And Will, I'm glad that you go deep with Opie because you know that over the years, Opie has explained that he's happy now, but he wasn't before. And then you find out that when he said he was happy, he actually wasn't, but now he is. And then you find out that he wasn't happy any of those times, but now he really is happy. I don't know if you've recognized this pattern.
Yeah. All that stuff I said before was a lie, but this is the truth.
Right. So this is him talking about how much he enjoys talking to 100 people.
And I don't know, in a weird way, I talk to a little over 100 people on average in this room at any given time. And I had probably more fun right now than I did the last whole bunch of years on the Opie and Anthony show. I enjoyed this more.
That's what he always talks about, how much he's enjoying himself. I really enjoy talking to 100 people. Well, yeah, the pressure's off. If you have no talent and you're a fraud and you have to get on a radio show for 3 hours a day and try to entertain people, I can see that being a lot of pressure. I can see that giving you a little bit of anxiety. Possibly.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people talk about what they would do if they had so much money that they didn't need to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Like Opie's really doing that. He's like, I'm going to do a Facebook show where I shit on everything I don't like and everyone who's ever done anything wrong to me. And I don't even care if it's good because what are they going to do? Fire me. I'm a millionaire. Like that's pretty much it.
Except for he's embarrassing himself. The one thing I wouldn't do if I had fuck you money is embarrass myself on the internet. I don't do it now. So I don't know why I would do it that.
It's like he missed being trolled. It's like he's like, I need to give people a reason to shit on me on Twitter
and
all
I do appreciate that. I really am glad that he puts these shows out because there's so much to talk about. This is more about how he used to not be happy.
I mean, the fact is that when I was a big radio star and I was in a state-of-the-art studio, I don't know how happy I actually was.
That's kind of on you, Ope.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the time to enjoy your life when you're on the top of the mountain in a state-of-the-art studio making millions of dollars.
Yeah, and like what was so much worse about that than talking into your cell phone, like and reading, 100 comments. That's very nice, but it's like, come on, man. You used to have like the mayor of New York call in every time something happened. You know what I mean? Like it was like they were like movers and shakers.
Well,
I sound like they were movers and shakers.
Well, you must be in the industry. You know all the slang.
These guys are making things happen. They had juice. They had juice, Carl. Juice.
There's a lot of momentum over there. All right. So this is him explaining how many people are watching him on Facebook Live. This is fascinating. This is peering into a person who is losing their mind.
You see 151 people in the room? Nice. Let's talk about how many people are in the room. Oh, it just dropped down to 147, my friends. Nope, now we're back up to 152. My God. What's wrong with people? They got ADD. Now it's 155. Now, I didn't like the last two words he said, so I'm getting out of here. Yeah, but maybe he's saying something really interesting again. I'm going to go back in the room and check that out. That wasn't that great. That rant was just okay. I'm going to go check out another podcast. Yeah, but I don't know. He's still live, and he's fucking nuts. He could say something really, really fucking stupid, so I think I'm going to go check it out a little more.
I think he's run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, he sounds like it sounds like, it's really hard to do a podcast all by yourself. You know what I mean? I did one for a long time and I was like, okay, this is good. Bill Burr's one of the only guys who's that talented to like pull it off. It's really, really hard to do.
Tim Dillon is amazing at it.
Oh yeah. But even he doesn't have he's got a guy sitting there that he can kind of bounce stuff off of, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
But like at least a presence, right? But like, yeah, I mean, Tim Dillon's just doing like the gods. He's like the god of comedy right now. I mean, he's like the man for this moment. It's not. There's no one better.
I agree, and that's what I wanted to be listening to this morning was him with Joe Rogan. But instead, I'm listening to fucking Opie talk about there's 152 people now. There's 155, 147. What just happened? What did I do? What did I say? You're saying nothing.
It's like he could watch a clock and be like, oh my God, it's 12. Now it's 12:02. When is this gonna stop? Oh, 12:02, 30 seconds. Oh my God.
What is it?
Now
Saturday?
It's 12.
Just yesterday was Friday. What's going on around here? What's
Opie
tomorrow gonna be? But I want you to be aware that he's very happy with how things are going on his podcast now.
My life has been pretty damn good lately. Things are going in the right direction. I'm very, very happy with the podcast.
Why? Why would he be happy with the podcast? He's lost 2 of his friends who used to co-host with him. One of them was actually funny. He's now just talking on Facebook Live for 120 people, and he has to exclaim that he's happy with how the podcast is going. Where are your expectations? Raise your expectations, Opie. You should be trying harder and doing better.
And where is he even doing this from? The beach? Is that where he is?
Yeah, he stands out on the beach, and it's windy, and it's obnoxious.
I want to hear the podcast that's done by like the woman who's like, there's a guy who stands outside my house every night and records into his chest. I'm watching him. He's weird. He has red hair. He seems angry.
Yes. You know his neighbors all think he's a lunatic.
Oh, yeah. Carl, give me 35 more seconds to pee. I've drank a lot of water today.
Okay, buddy.
I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Chris, the 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce manscaping accidents thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. The water-resistant technology allows you to groom in the shower, and one of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. Chris, you saw me getting in there this morning. I was getting every nook and cranny with the Lawnmower 3.0. Oh, now you don't want to talk about it? Now you're embarrassed? Whatever. They've upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. Quiet stroke is trademarked, by the way. They invented this technology, quiet stroke. And let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show your mower off loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. Someone comes into your house, I feel like that should be the centerpiece. When you're sitting down with guests and you have a dinner date, the Lawnmower 3.0 should be fuck flowers. The Lawnmower 3.0, it's a conversation starter. Oh, you shave your balls today? Yeah, why? You didn't? What are you, a weirdo? You didn't shave your balls before coming over to my house to eat dinner? What are you, crazy?
I'm back.
Trim that. I was just talking about the sleek charging stand for the Lawnmower 3.0. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's the Manscaped. It's the way.
Dude, that stuff is great.
It's precision engineered tools for your family jewels.
No, I end up using them on my face because I can get a nice smooth line.
Yes.
You know?
I encourage that. I say shave your balls and then just shave your face, shave your head. Shave your nose hairs.
Then all the chicks you meet can smell your balls. You get in for a kiss.
I shove it right up my nose. My nose hairs are gone thanks to the Manscaped 3.0. WATP20 for 20% off. And free shipping. What were we just talking about? Oh,
I was hoping you were shitting on me for going to the bathroom like Opie used to do to Jimmy. Jimmy pees a lot, and Opie always goes like, "Why does he always gotta pee? What's his bladder like? What's going on?"
I find it a little bit annoying because I know that you don't drink anymore, and I do, and I'm not peeing as much as you.
No, I got dehydrated, Carl. I got dehydrated last night. So I've been drinking a lot of water today to try and get my hydration back, and it's making me pee.
The big news with Opie, and the reason why he put out an episode where shit just got real, it's called, is because his sister's husband, his brother-in-law, has coronavirus.
Whoa.
And he talks about this.
But now he's dealing with a cough, which scares the fuck out of all of us. And he's also dealing with body aches. And he says he feels better, but we're checking in on him like 3 or 4 times a day.
He's checking in 3 or 4 times a day. Honey, who's that calling? It's Greg again. Can you tell him I died? Why does he keep
like
calling here? I have a
cough
cold.
and
It's
body
fine.
aches. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's not gonna die, hopefully. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you? And I also like that obvious lie. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, someone is checking on him. I hear about it when my wife brings it up.
3 or
Like,
4 times a day. How obnoxious is that?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Are you dead yet? You dead yet? Now are you dead?
Yeah,
you think you're gonna die? Should I come over? Should I watch you die? Jesus.
Yeah, I don't want to come over because then I'll get corona, but I do want to know what's going on. So I want to bother you, but
Can I
not
just
be
watch
there.
through the window as you die? Opie's got a
And
new
it's his-
sponsor. Oh, go ahead.
It's his brother-in-law, you said?
Yeah, it's his brother-in-law.
So it's probably like someone younger than him. That's probably why he's freaked out about it, because Opie's kind of a hypo, right? He doesn't want to get it himself. So
Correct. He's very
keeping a
concerned.
close eye on him.
He said,
Yeah.
we're taking it real seriously in our household. He's taking it real
Oh, yeah.
seriously.
So no friends coming over.
Dude,
The-
it's so
the norm.
funny. Vic Henley invited himself over because Vic's stuck in the city. So he invited himself out to the Hamptons, and Opie said, no dice, Vic, you're not coming here. And then 2 days later, Vic Henley died. It's
I was just gonna say, Vic
it's one
Henley
of the funniest
died.
things.
Right.
It's funny, right? Producer Chris. Vic Henley died. It's funny, right? I could be wrong. All
Poor Vic Henley.
So Opie's got, I don't know if you know Vic, but Opie's got a.
I do. I don't know him super well, but honest to God, I know. I wasn't a huge fan of him on the show, but I was a fan of his stand-up, and I didn't know him, but everyone says he was a great guy. So
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was very
yeah.
nice.
Everybody says that. Now let's get back to shitting on the living.
Yes, that sounds good. At least he can defend himself. Poor Vic can't even defend himself from my rants anymore. All right, this is Opie's new sponsor. It's some type of tobacco product. It's very confusing. I'm not sure what it is, but I just thought this was hilarious.
I got a new sponsor. God, I love Lucy Nicotine. Love these guys. It's Lucy.co. Lusy.co.
Lusy. Is that how you spell Lucy? Lusy.co.
How did he get a sponsor? I'm shocked he has one. I'm like,
yeah, I'm still suspicious whether he even has real sponsors or if he just does ad reads to make it seem like
he's like,
important.
my new sponsor, Coca-Cola.
You're right.
They got some great stuff.
So I just want to point out, if it really was lusy.co, that would be the world's worst domain. It doesn't make any sense. It's not. It's Lucy, because that's how you spell Lucy. This fucking idiot.
So he got it wrong.
He got the domain wrong on the first ad read for it. Like, you fucking moron.
Damn. Imagine imagine sending like some weird money to Opie, or like Venmoing Opie. You're like, I'm not sure if this is a good ad or not. And everyone's like, come on, man, Opie and Anthony, it's gonna be great. Then he just messes it up first thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're like, man, that was a
Like,
waste.
how
of
many listeners does he
75.
have? Over 100. I mean, come on. Let's just give him some money and see what happens.
And what's funny to me is that Opie clearly doesn't need the money to like have a sponsor. He could put the show out himself like very easily. So he doesn't need a sponsor. So I wonder if he just has the sponsor just to do the reads and make himself feel like he's doing a radio show.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean? I wonder if
I
that's
do know
it
what
is.
you mean. That's my theory.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He's like, I remember he hated podcasting like when it started. You know what I mean? He was one of those guys who was like, podcasting's lame. It's never gonna take off. They're trying to be like us. You know what I mean? And he just hates being wrong.
Well, that's too bad because it happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I just have a couple more things that I want to play because I just find this so funny. Opie starts to get political, and the political talk is mind-boggling. This is one of the most racist things anyone's ever said. He's talking about the reason why Obama became our first president. And I just find this insulting to everyone involved.
So even with Obama, I mean, very carefully he becomes the first black president, and he was just the right tone.
Oh.
He's talking about his shade, the shade of his skin. He was just the right tone to get elected. Like, well, he's also really charismatic and likable, and he was really good at speaking.
Maybe the greatest public speaker like since Kennedy.
Yeah, like, and Opie's thought is, well, if he was a little bit darker, he never would have gotten voted. I'm like, wait, Opie, is that what you think? Is that how you
right
think about
tone.
it? Like, that's insane.
That's a big one. Maybe of all the things we've heard on this show today, that is the most revealing. To be I
agree. I've never once
just the
thought
right
about
tone.
how dark Obama's skin color is. I don't know why that's relevant in any way.
It's just I do remember Opie always likes to try and please everybody all at once. Like
Correct.
he tries to say something that the Trump people are gonna like,
Yes.
and then he realizes like he went too far. So then he says something that the Obama people are gonna like, and he tries to like sprinkle it all over the place so he can always be like, "What are you saying? I'm on your side. Come on."
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
this is going on more so now than it ever has before. He's constantly talking about how he's a centrist and he doesn't like Trump, but he also doesn't like Biden, and he's not sure about Harris, and he's got all these ridiculous views. If you're like, I was talking to Anthony, I was on Anthony's show on Thursday, and that was a lot of fun. We played some Opie clips, we played some Stuttering John clips, and Anthony was like, I was telling him how he's declared he's a centrist now, and he's like, you can't be a centrist if you're a broadcaster. That's the most boring point of view you could possibly have. You got to have like a take on shit. Well, otherwise, why is anyone listening to you?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. He's always kind of been that way. And I remember when Trump was running, he was one of the first guys to be like, "It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen." But why won't he come on the show? Like, what? Like, you know what I mean? So it was like, as soon as Trump started to get a little serious, he was like, "He used to do our show all the time." You know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Donald Trump Jr. used to do their show all the time too, and he's still doing Anthony Cumia's show. He was just on last week, so
I know.
Funny how that works.
I mean, obviously, it's all right there, right?
So this is just wrapping up the
reason why I have
portion.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the reason why I have so much deference for Opie is because I don't have a personal relationship with him. Like all the people that know him aren't afraid to shit on him, but I don't know him that well, so I'm always like, I just want to, sometimes be like, I don't think I'm better than Opie.
I think you're better than Opie.
I mean, I was gonna say in some way, I think
do.
I'm funnier.
You're definitely funnier. You're a better broadcaster. I could tell just from the last hour of us hanging out.
Carl, Carl, baby. If you had a vagina, I'd fuck it.
All right, that's another thing I'm gonna have to pull out as an ISO. That's really funny. All right, so this is the thing after he talks about Obama, because he's talking about Biden grabbing Harris as his running mate, and he's like, I think it's annoying that we can't vote for the VP, and then he says this.
If Joe Biden picked Wanda Sykes, this country would fucking lose their minds.
And he's saying that as if it's because Wanda Sykes is a certain darkness.
Darkness,
it's because she's an annoying cunt.
And she's a stand-up comedian.
She's an unfunny stand-up comedian. If Wanda Sykes was the VP, I would definitely lose my mind. It has nothing to do with her skin color. She's obnoxious.
I love how much he cracked himself up with that one, too. He was like, ah, ha, ha.
Get it, Wanda Sykes?
And he put a black scent on to say Wanda Sykes. He was like, Wanda Sykes! Wanda Sykes!
Yeah, he used to be weird around Patrice O'Neal, too. The way he would talk when Patrice was on as opposed to Jimmy.
There's a lot of people who do that. I love Black Opie when he'd be like, yo, Patrice, though, you know.
So embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for Opie. It's not even happening right now.
There are. Exactly. It's true, though, right?
My face is turning red because I feel bad for Opie. He's so embarrassing.
Someone in the chat has a problem with the word black scent. You never heard that one before? I think that's a great one.
I like
Didn't
it.
make it up. Yeah.
Don't pay attention to the people in the chat.
No, hold on a second. There's a guy in the chat. Now there's 147. A minute ago, there was 146.
Can I get someone giving me a running tally on how many people are in the Discord, please?
Closet confidence, I see you.
All right. This is Opie explaining that he's not a fan of me personally.
Oh.
But I don't respect people that have to try to knock me completely down, and that's what makes them happy. Just go off and listen to what you like, and that's it. Simple as that.
I want to listen to what I like. I wish I was spending my time listening to what I like.
That is right at you, Carl. That is right at you.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of sums up my whole gimmick over here. My whole shtick. Oh, and by the way, when he was talking earlier about how all these podcasts rip off their format, we actually literally do rip off their format. This is junked over. I forgot to make that point. Where?
Oh yeah, that's true.
I don't think the other shows are that's just comedians. That's just what they do. They get together and shoot the shit. We're literally taking their bit and making it a podcast.
Yeah, I mean and it was one of their best bits, and everyone loved it too. You know what I mean?
It was my favorite bit.
And also, I'm sorry though, but it's like if you're part of one of the most influential radio shows of all time, you don't get to complain about being influential. It's like, it's like people love that show.
That's a really good point. He's complaining instead of saying this is great. Now there's all these shows with all these funny people doing this format.
It is, yeah. That is kind of like, I mean, I've seen Anthony. I've seen people come up to him and tell him like, dude, you mean so much to my life. Like I got into radio because of you, or I got into this. And he's like, and Anthony would be the guy you might be afraid to go up to and say that to, because like he's so funny on a show and can be so brutal, but he's super nice to everyone who says that to him. You know what I mean? He's like, thanks. We had some great times. Like, I'm just glad people like it. I'm glad people still listen. He's just such a gentleman about the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like just the normal way to react to people enjoying what you've done and complimenting you.
Yeah. It's actually like a great thing.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And they were I think they were kind of underappreciated in their time. Like they were appreciated by their own fans, but a lot of the like younger comedians now, like guys in their 20s and like early 20s, they're listening to ONA on YouTube and they can't believe how fucking funny it is. But they're tuning in because of Burr and Patrice and
WATP. I mean, obviously, we're the ones turning people on to ONA.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
I mean, I would never say that, but that's what people are saying to me. I would never take credit. That's what people are telling me, is how influential we are in their lives. People stop me on the street.
Yeah, they're like, did they ever just say, like, hey, man, you're like the Opie to me, you know what I mean?
that would be such a dick thing to say. I'd smack them in their face.
What would you? I have a question for you?
Please.
What would you do? You're coming out of Starbucks, like you're walking through Manhattan. You got to take a piss, and you go into a Starbucks, and it's that solo bathroom. You're in there. You pee. You're washing your hands, and you open the door. And the next person waiting for the bathroom is Greg Opie Hughes. What do you do in that moment?
I would literally say, "What's up, Ope?" and keep walking. Because I don't have hatred for him. I want him to keep doing the podcast. It feeds me a lot of great content. And we treat everything like a roast. If he wanted to have a conversation, I would tell him, he's never acknowledged us, which is probably a smart move. But I would tell him, dude, if you think we suck, then hammer us back. Anytime someone makes fun of me back, I always play it on the show. I love it.
Yeah.
I encourage
I think that. But would you like say like would you like geek out a little bit and be like, Opie, oh my God, like it's you. Like would you nothing like that?
Dude, no, because so we're up here in Rochester. I went and saw Jim Norton perform years ago back when Opie and Anthony was still going strong. And of course, Opie's here because Brother Weeze is here, so he likes making the trip to Rochester. So he was standing right there. I was standing right next to him, and I had nothing. I'd rather talk to Club Soda Kenny. I'm like, there's Club Soda Kenny. Let's go talk to him.
I know. I did I've gotten starstruck from Club Soda Kenny before.
He's much more interesting. By the way, that was Opie's driver. He's much more interesting than Opie.
He is an interesting guy. I saw him backstage somewhere. I didn't expect to see him, and I was like, oh my God, Club Soda Kenny. You know what I mean?
Yes. Right. So to your point, this has actually happened long before I started WATP, and I didn't care then, and I don't care now. I don't have anything to say to the guy. I loved meeting Anthony. It's been so fun talking to Anthony and Jim Norton. I've loved talking to them and being on their shows. Opie, I would have no interest in doing a show with him or talking to him or anything. He's a boring guy.
It's just I always kind of thought that too. Like when I first started doing the Brother Man stuff, like he knew about it and I knew he knew about it, and I was like, he should have me on. Like that would be what I would do. You know what I mean? If someone was out there doing me or doing like taking shots at me in any way, I'd just have him on the show, and I'd be like, it'll be great radio. It'll be great radio, bro.
This is the last clip that I want to play. And this proves, because remember I played that Opie's so happy. He's never had more fun doing his podcast. He's never had more fun in life. But then he admits that maybe doing the podcast is not the best thing he could be doing.
Actually, the fishing would be fantastic right now. Maybe I should turn this off and just go enjoy my life.
I love when the truth slips out from time to time.
Yeah.
Because all the bullshit is how happy he is, how much he's enjoying things, how he loves talking to 100 people on Facebook. Like, that's all the bullshit. And then he'll be like, you know what? I could be fucking fishing right now. That'd be so much better than this.
It's almost like I hadn't listened to his podcast in a really long time, but you were so right. It's like a mentally ill therapy session without the therapist. It's just a guy talking, and occasionally he gives himself a little good advice like that. Like, maybe I should just stop this.
Occasionally gives himself good advice. That's well said.
Maybe I should just stop this and go fishing like
That
I
is
like.
well said.
Who are these podcasts?